Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we met last week, and last week was kind of like the beginning to start to talk. Like the question I get the most in the industry, first of all, I'm a cleaning service owner myself, have had maids and more for the past, I'm going to just say 18 years because it's 18 years on June 1st. So I'm pretty close. And building that business, now we're at 17 managers, and then we are trying to hit 10 million, but we'll probably get pretty close to it. So if anybody knows about managing managers and motivating and leading your team to help, it's not all about you, it's your team and the effort that they're putting in. And people are like, how do you do that? How do you motivate your team to grow the company like it is their own? So it's a really hard topic to cover, like managing managers, because part of it is a little fluffy and you're like, what did she just say? Like, how do I actually apply that? So I'm going to do my best to try to give you a little bit of the fluff of how we do it, as well as getting down to very technical steps that you can take that really pushed us to create this culture at Maids and More, to where I haven't been in the business in 3 years and they've grown more than ever without me in it. So obviously that has a lot to do with our amazing team and our management structure and how we've got things going on. So this is part 2 of this whole topic. And I will go ahead and get started. So having managers in place with their checklist, but now what? So what we did last week, and it was kind of, I'll actually go back to this. So I'll go to this slide, is we went over in webinar 1, what we're working on today is setting goals. This is the most important and most underrated thing. But just to back up to last week, we pretty much went over how to set your management structure, what you want it to look like maybe in the future or in years to come. And I gave mine as an example. Also, I will be putting both these webinars, so you'll have that to go back and watch. Second, we talked about how to know when it's the right timing to hire. That we talked about how to create your avatar, getting those checklists ready and prepared so you know exactly what you're already hiring for. So when you go to look for them, you're looking particularly for a person who are good at these tasks, because everybody has checklist that's a manager, and when they start to pull their hair out and get frustrated and hate their job, it's probably because they have too much to do, which means you need to take stuff off of their checklist to delegate to another person and create another role and responsibility. Then number 4, we talked about how do you find the right managers, where do you look, strategies on how to do them. Then you get the tone set when they first get there, and then you assign them a checklist. So we're taking off from that point right now, and we're like, okay, now that we have them here and we're ready to roll. I always tell people, even when they're applying, is that everybody has a choice to work anywhere they want. And if, like a customer, if you're trying to convince a customer to go with your service because why? What makes you special? Why use my service? It's the same thing with an employee. Why work for you? I could work anywhere. Well, because we have the best environment, we're going to be a positive and enjoyable and fun place to work. And setting that environment is so important. I see a lot of owners who just kind of hire people and walk away and pray it gets done. You really have to spend the time in creating that environment. I know I spoke on a podcast the other day, and it's like, we're all family. And if anybody is going to make anybody else's life miserable by working with you working here, you're going to not be here, because this is going to be a fun place. It's going to be a place where we want to come to work, where we want to work together. We work together as a team, and it is fun. So setting that environment positive, engaging, fun, challenging. I don't mean to make it like so easy that you get to come and goof off every day, but you're genuinely excited about hitting your goals and achieving a lot of things with your team and for your team. So that's the kind of environment that we have at Maids and More, and that I highly encourage, because if they leave your job, which has happened, managers have left, guess what? They should want to come back, because they're going to be like, that was so horrible. Nobody cares over there. There's no kind of family environment. The boss just lets people run around being negative, and it's just a horrible place to work. So you've got to create that environment. Also, managers, we want them to carry out our vision as owners, but we want them to help us create the vision, because then they're going to carry it out themselves. It's like kind of like your parents telling you what to do when you're a teenager. You're not going to do it if it's not your idea. So this is where all the leadership comes in. And this is the fluffy part of my presentation, where stop me if I get too fluffy, but creating in that environment where you want to come to work. It's not about you. Number one rule, it is not about you, the owner. It is about the company and the team. I never ever use words like I or me. It's always we or us or them, the team. Never ever ever put anybody that's working for you as a manager below you. Walk alongside them, treat them as your equal. That's very important. Also, to stand by your word. If you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, and you don't address that you didn't do it, they're going to assume that you're never going to do what you say you're going to do. And it only takes one time. So, yes, there's been some stuff that I've said we're going to do this and I didn't, but I had to eat it. I had to come in front of everybody and say, I know we said we were going to do this. I missed my deadline. I greatly apologize. You got to take accountability, but don't ever leave it hanging, or you're just waiting for somebody to roast you. The level of respect goes way down. When you say you're going to do it, you've got to hold your team accountable as well as yourself. Number two, clearly communicate the whys. So I don't know about you, but like when I do something, I just don't, like if I'm doing it, I want to know why the hell I'm doing it. Like I don't want to just go through the motions. Like explaining on their checklist, like, why do I have to finalize these payrolls every day? Like, why can't I just do it once a week? And explain to them, like, okay, we have it set up like this, so it's not so overwhelming. If we get behind, somebody has to fill in for you. And they're like, oh, got it. Sometimes it just takes that extra 10 seconds, maybe a minute, sometimes longer, explaining the why of why you're doing something. And it's super duper duper important. And then you also have to tie those back into your goals, team benefits, and then of course it always turns out better for the clients. I've learned when you make your employees and you have an employee structured, centered company, your customers are way happier. So really focusing on employees and your managers and all of that more than you even focus on your customers is a good thing. They are happy, which translates to happy customers and a great team. And then lastly, this one's hard because sometimes you don't want it. Sometimes I ask for Caitlin's feedback and I'm like, oh, here it comes. And I'm like, it might hurt. But if they don't feel like they are heard and their feedback matters, they're not going to care to give it, and they're not going to care to be there. So it's very important that you take their feedback. Taking their feedback doesn't mean that you're surrendering authority. It means that you care what they have to say. And that is and think about it, like when you worked for somebody else, you would want you to give your feedback to your boss and feel like you were important, and you would feel like part of the team. It would make you feel really respected in your job. So go ahead. I'm going to give you an example of why this might be scary. So let's just use CRMs because I'm really good at that one because it happens all the time. So say you encourage feedback and somebody comes to you and they're like, I hate this new CRM. I just want to go back to Jobber. It was so much easier. I don't want to do that. Well, you've encouraged feedback, which is great. So responding to that feedback is like, I totally understand change is hard. I get it. I'm jumping in with you to try to help you. How can I help make this transition easier? Let's just give it six to 8 months. Trust me in the fact. And now let's remember why we switched. We switched because we had all of these problems with this one. Okay. So let's remember that. Let's stay focused and move forward. So even if their feedback is negative, it's still important for you to take it and to address it. So it's all about the team. It's all clearly communicating the whys. And then it's also clearly asking, and then taking the feedback, good and bad, and actually doing something and responding to it. Next slide. The golden rule of leadership. So never tell anybody to do something. Create a space in which they voluntarily accept that they want to do it. So it's a lot of people always ask me leadership, like, how did you know to do that? Some people are just born with it, but some of us are not born with leadership skills. I've seen it. I've seen a lot of our managers that were meek and mild and never had 1 ounce of leadership in their entire life um, become leaders. So leadership is actually teachable. You're not just born with it. And here's kind of my way to shape a person into a leader. You can teach people how to be leaders. So the first opportunity to teach somebody to be a leader is when you fail. Failures are the best thing that happened to us because that is the opportunity for learning, coaching, and teaching, not only yourself, but whoever, and letting that other person fail. Like, it's okay if your manager makes a bad mistake. Sometimes I even let back and go, ooh, she's going to make that mistake, but I'm just going to watch her. And then I'm going to coach her through it, because sometimes you have to live the mistake to learn, and learning from your mistakes and being humble in that fact is going to make you a better leader, even if you don't have any leadership skills. Then there's, I call it, we all have the people that we watch online and that we follow, that we want to aspire to. I wish I could be a leader like her. That's great and fine. You can pick up tools, but what I caution you against is to be genuine and consistent in who you actually are, right? So if I'm a down to earth, maybe dropping a couple of cuss words every now and then, and just a scatterbrained, fun, crazy, wild maniac, let me be me. You be you. You don't try to duplicate someone else's leadership style. It's not going to be genuine. It's not going to be consistent, and it's not going to be replicable for you to do. And it's not going to be fun. Like, if you have to show up, if your managers have to show up every day and be a different person, they're never going to succeed. So you take your true personality and you mold your own leadership skills, but you just have to make sure that whatever you're doing is genuine and consistent. I used to be a school teacher, and I had a principal who was like a really big hard nose, like super by the book, very dry, but he was consistent. He explained the whys, and he was genuine to who he was, and everyone loved him. He wasn't a bubbly, like, I've got to be like, I don't know, somebody give me a leader example, like Brunson or whatever. Or Grant Cardone, I got to be like them. They're great speakers. That is not the case. A leader does not have to be like that. Genuine and consistent. So another thing about a leader is they never come up with this solution on their own. You want the team and your people to help shape your solution. If you do not, they are not going to follow. Also, don't shove ideas upon them. I mean, yeah, I've got ideas how to solve the problems, but you don't want to make it that's the idea we got to go with, right? Offer an opportunity for everybody to solve the problem. Everybody drop their solutions, and then we decide which solution that we're going to pursue. So buy-in isn't agreement, it's ownership. So in order for them to own all that, you have got to be a great leader in the fact that we are all coming to a solution on it together. We're not using words like I, me, or my. We're we, us, and them, and team. And then managers can move mountains, but we're selfish. Humans are selfish by nature. So let's stop lying. We're selfish. You're going to move mountains for yourself. You're not going to move mountains for other people, right? So they have to see what's in it for them. So they want to move that mountain, not just in it for me. Like, what's in it for my team? What's in it for myself? If I'm going to put all this effort in. So goals. That brings me to the most important thing about leadership. If you do not have goals, and a lot of people understand that you need goals to make great leaders, great managers, but what they don't understand is how to execute a goal, like how to make the goal, execute, follow all the way through with it, break it down so that, I mean, we're not, all of us in the cleaning industry, even our managers, we're not rocket scientists. We don't come with PhDs. So how do we break this down to get it accomplished in a simple way that's easy to follow? So that's what this whole next section of technical skills I'm about to get into today. But I wanted to point out that checklists, like, Everybody has a checklist that they're doing every day, so they know exactly what tasks they're responsible for. But that's what checklists are. They're tasks. We're not talking about tasks right now. We're talking about goals. We're talking about the goal is the purpose behind the task. Why do we do them? Why should we move that mountain? What is it there for? We need to understand the why. So when we're having these goal planning sessions, we are actually explaining to our team the why. Why do we have these goals and what are we doing here to accomplish them? So goals are going to create your clarity. It's going to accountability. It's going to create that buy-in. And lastly, you're going to teach your managers how to be leaders through goals. If you skip, and maybe some of you are skipping it right now, and that's where you're struggling, is that if you don't have these goal sessions with your team, you're kind of just probably like, did you get your checklist done? They're like, yeah. And they're walking out the door and you're like, they don't really care. They're not really bought in. It's because you're missing this important part, and it's the goal. So every quarter we sit down and we have a strategic planning session that includes very clear, and we've done it so many times. I was even talking to Caitlin earlier that it's like we've done the same strategic planning session with our managers for over 14 years. And it's like we almost do it instantly in our heads. It's like we don't even need, like we approach every problem like this as it comes. So this is not something that you're going to be like, oh, we're going to have our 90-day training or our 90-day goal session, and we're going to solve the entire cleaning company and our managers are going to be leaders right off the bat. No, this is like, you're going to have your first one. It might be a little rough. You're going to have your second, third, fourth, fifth. I mean, I can't even tell you how many strategic planning sessions we have. So this is not a quick fix. This is not, oh, let's just have this meeting and we'll be good to go. This is something you have to do consistently over time, repetitively, over and over again. I'm going to take a breath and a drink. Does anybody have any questions so far? Not yet? Okay. So I do have a little trick, and if I have any of my employee or any of my managers in here, they'll probably be like, that's what you were doing. So, or Caitlin was doing. So tips before going into a strategic planning session. Activate those team members that are the influencers. So we all got them. So let's pretend that, I mean, we've got strong voices that you know will have your back and that will be helpful. Or you've maybe even have those ones that are always negative and you don't want them to ruin the vibe of the planning session. So you kind of activate those team influencers and have a little chat with them before we get in there to make sure that their mind is right. Pre-conversations that line up. When you start to get like we were talking last session of where you have a very lower level management and then you start to layer as you grow and you get that mid-level management. And then eventually you'll even go up to that higher level management of CEOs and DOs and director of marketing, director of sales. So when you get to that point, you probably want to pull the upper management aside and make sure that they're all on the same page and that we're headed in the right direction. Because when you have these strategic planning sessions, you don't want to walk around looking like you don't know what you're doing and you're wasting their time because we're busy and we got a lot of shit to do. We don't have time to sit around and help you figure out the strategic planning session. So try to do a little bit of the pre-work in advance. And then also, I always say this because you're not manipulating them, you're coaching them into clarity. I know it sounds like manipulation, leadership can sometimes, but it's not. You're coaching into clarity. So we'll fight for whatever they help create, and that is our job. Our job is to be a facilitator, a coach, and a person that is always going to have their back. And that is how managers get buy-in, and you can now start to kick some ass and create some goals. So fluff part is done. How'd I do? Was it super fluffy? Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you were under $1 million, when you're getting to that $1 million point, how many managers is appropriate?
Good question.
getting to
So
10, I can understand 17 managers, but if
yeah.
you're under the million point, um, where were you at?
So I would say when we had like 300,000 to let's say 500,000, we had three of us. And at that point, I am GM of Austin. I am the CEO. I'm multiple hats, right? I'm also AR. I've been wearing a lot of hats. And then I have a person in sales, and then maybe I have one assistant under me. When you get up to million, I think it probably went maybe we strategized in these sessions to try to maximize the three of us even more. And then probably at a million, you were looking at like four. I would say every million you are is like 3 to 4 managers, just depending. It's probably more in the beginning. And when you get much bigger, you're able to change your structure and move checklists around and actually utilize them a little bit better and more efficiently. So I would say, and Caitlin, help me with this if you think I'm wrong, but million and below, I would say it could easily be done with 3 to 4 managers. No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. And if you have the cleaning software, maybe even two. Right, Pam? And now we are to actually running these sessions. So we sit down every 90 days. I don't know if y'all have ever been in a year-long planning session. It is great to have year-long goals, and we do have those. They're more of like financial kind of benchmarks. And we can get to yearly planning sessions in a little bit, but what I'm trying to get to the nitty-gritty of is getting success out of your managers. You're meeting every 90 days and you're having a very strategic planning session that's not overwhelming, that you're going to be able to capitalize on some of the problems that they are having, breaking them down and looking at it 90 days at a time. If you start to list every single problem that you have and you try to conquer it all at one time, everybody's going to fall flat on their face and get zero accomplished. So we're going to break it down 90 days at a time. So when we all sit down, we have our papers and we're like, let's list all of the things that went good. This is probably the most important thing because I think we all want to be really hard on ourselves, and we really need to take the time to praise everybody and say what went great. Even if it's like, we got a new water machine, like whatever the great is, put it down and don't let them go without saying. If nobody's saying anything, pull it out of them. And then the next thing is, after you've gone over what's gone good, it's not so good. Did you notice how I said not so good? I didn't dwell on what was negative or problems. We're talking about, okay, now what could be better or what could have not gone so good? So this is the one, and I'll use Beta like crazy. She was one of my assistant GMs that started at the very beginning, probably at that $1.2 million mark. There were four of us. And it was really hard on these sessions. She was meek and mild and quiet, and it was really hard for her to speak up during this time. But this is the most important time that you get feedback from them. And so I've listed some questions here that'll help drag that out of them. For instance, like, what clutter items is going on throughout your day that you're wasting all your time on, that you feel is like annoying? And a lot of the time the answer to that is emails. Okay, well, too many emails. Yeah, let's write it down. Write it all down. Or maybe what is something that you don't like during your day that is annoying you, that's making your job miserable? There's got to be something. What problems do you spend most of the time fixing? Like, if you're constantly fixing, like team 20 is constantly getting lost, okay, write it down. That's not going so good. Also, what is keeping you from hitting your goals? Like, if I didn't get to my goals last quarter, what was in my way? Why couldn't I do it? It's okay to not reach your goal, but there is something that went bad that we need to fix. Again, preparing ourselves to take failures and to learn from them and fix them in the future. So now that I've drug all of those problems out of them, we're going to take everyone's combined list of like what didn't go so well. Now I had to create a slideshow. So I didn't have room, but I remember when we very first did one of these 90-day planning sessions 14 years ago, our page was like 5 pages long, like forever long. And it can be overwhelming, but you're working 90 days at a time. You can always bust this list back out every time you have a strategic planning session. You can keep working off the same list and just adding to it. But what you're doing is you're pulling these not so good things off of here. And you're like, how are we going? Let's prioritize them. What can we realistically get completed in the next 90 days? Let's get rid of the worst ones first, and then eventually we'll get all the way down the line. So after 14 years of this, our not so good list is actually not too horribly bad. Like we don't have a whole lot to work on because we have really nailed down this list. So nail down your list, and then as a team, you kind of decide what is the most important thing? What is keeping us from being badass? Like what's the one highest priority? So in this case, I just highlighted 4 things that this pretend webinar is going to be working on. We're going to work on, we really need more cleaners because we can't book any new cleanings, so we're stuck and we can't grow. That's our number 1 problem right now. So we'll come back to this list later. That's the one that we need to set goals around so we can crush it so it is no longer a problem. And how are we going to do that? So your team has ranked it. We've picked our top priority problem. Now, normally in a planning session, then we go back up and get 2, we go back up and get 3, go back up and get 4, and do the same thing over and over again. I'm just going to do the 1 for right now. So before we start breaking that problem down into goals, I know all of you have seen this before, but a goal has to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. If it doesn't have those 5 specifications in a goal, it is not a goal. Like, I want to reach $10 million. That's not really a goal. Like, when do you want to hit $10 million? When is it even achievable this year? Can you do that? Is it measurable? How are you going to measure it? Be very specific. Like, goals have to be broken down so they're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and then also time bound. If you're missing any one of those, it's going to be really hard to get there. Do y'all have any questions about SMART goals? I'm sure y'all have had that shoved down, seen it 1,000 times before at different conferences. So now we're going to take our SMART goal, we're going to take our first problem, and we're going to break it down. We need clear tasks, we need deadlines, we need to break that goal down into tasks and assign it to owners. So our problem was that we need more cleaners. We can't book any new cleanings or can't take any new jobs. So our SMART goal that we would have came together as a team and said, okay, if we want to get to where we're going, we need to have at least net 6 new teams, cleaners, however you want to say it, by the end of Q3 in the next 90 days. That's great. It's a SMART goal. It's specific, it's measurable, it's time bound, it's achievable, but you can't just stop there and write that goal down and then expect your team to get it done. Now let's take that goal and let's break it down into tasks. So in order to accomplish that goal, like we all know, we've got to conduct at least 25 interviews. First of all, you probably have to schedule like 60 interviews to get 25 to even come to the interview. And then when you get 25 to come to the interview, we know out of those 25, we're probably only going to be able to hire 12. And then of those 12, we know that only 50% of them are going to stay, maybe. So you figure out what your patterns are in your business and decide, break it down. So we just for this purpose, I said, okay, I need to conduct 25 interviews and hire equal to or less than 12 cleaners in order to net 6 at the end of my quarter. Because remember, every time you might be adding 12, but you're probably losing some, and then some of them are going to stay. So really be strategic in breaking that down. Okay, now how in the hell are we going to do that? Now we're breaking it down into tasks. So I'm hiring, somebody has got to be in charge of, okay, are we going to hire lead chill or root recruit? What are we going to do to get these in? Okay, that's going to be Sally's job. And Sally, you're going to have the due date on that is going to be by 6/5. I want a report from which one you decided to go with, and what all we need, what their process is, and how we get started. So bam. And then we need to create a really badass job post and maybe find places to put them. Sally, you're in charge of that, and it is due by 6/8. So now you've taken this goal, you've broken it down to the team into very specific tasks, not just, oh, this is our goal. And then at the end of the quarter, we don't even know, oh, we didn't do it because I didn't know where to start. That's the number one thing that you get. So who's going to do the applicant screening? Who's going to take the phone calls? Who's going to get them scheduled? Sarah, I just started slapping in names. Interviews, who's going to conduct the interviews? When are we going to do them? Who's going to prepare the questions? That's Sam. Hiring and onboarding, as soon as they get in, who's going to get them enrolled and get them going and keep track of them and try to get them to stay. That's going to be Sam. So I just took a goal. It went from a problem to a SMART goal to a very specific task assigned to each people at certain deadlines. So then we go back up here to the next problem and we do it again. And we do it again and we do it again until we have conquered everyone. Now, I'm not going to lie. Some of these may not work the first time. You might be back the next 90 days saying, you know what? It didn't work. We need to redo this whole thing, reassign tasks, and start all the way over because what we did last quarter didn't work. Again, part of leadership is failing, figuring out, and getting back after it again to solve the problem. So, did I miss anything out on that, Caitlin? Did I skip anything?
No, I don't think so. That was good.
Okay. So you want to meet quarterly. You want to measure it monthly and weekly. So you're setting the SMART goals. You're tracking it monthly and weekly progress. You're staying proactive and not reactive. So for instance, like somebody asked me just a second ago, when it was me as the CEO, as the DO, or all the things, plus an assistant, plus a salesperson, I was doing a lot of all of this myself. It's my job to go and track to make sure everybody is getting done on their deadline. If you do not follow through with them and they don't know that you're going to, like Caitlin knows that if I have a deadline, I'm going to be checking in with her and saying, hey, did we hit that deadline? Did we hit that deadline? I'm going to put them on my calendars. I'm going to triple check. Holding them accountable and the follow through with this whole process. Otherwise, you just wasted a crap ton of time. And I always tell my team, I understand that the day gets nuts, right? We had Sarah get in a car wreck and somebody fell down the stairs and I didn't have time. And there is no excuse. You've got time. We've set the deadline so that no matter what pops up, there is time. The second you start to allow excuses to keep you from your goals is the second that it's over because they're always going to be using excuses. So making sure that you're adding like these tasks that I had for Sally and for Sarah, and I'm actually going to put those tasks on their daily checklist because remember, checklists are tasks, but we just broke down that goal into tasks. So I'm going to add that task to their checklist so that they have to look at it every day, knowing that they are going to be held accountable for that at that due date. So in between excuses, figure out how to get it done by that due date. So when you get a bigger, like I was explaining earlier, a smaller team, it was me checking it all, right? But when you get a bigger, larger management team, you can have your director of sales checking on your sales team, making sure that they're hitting those deadlines, or your DOO that's checking all your ops teams to make sure they're getting their deadlines, or your CEO. So either way, someone's assigned to the task of tracking and holding accountable. All right, so let's recap that process. Sounded easy in theory. All of this stuff sounds very easy in theory. But I can't stress to you guys how important it is to stay consistent with it. So we went over quarterly brainstorming sessions. What went good, not so good. We took the not so goods, we created SMART goals. We broke them into quarterly, monthly, and weekly targets. Then we identified each individual task. We assigned it to a person, and then we also assigned the tracking, measuring, and following up to a person. So are there any questions about the strategic planning process? I wish I couldn't see y'all's faces, so I wouldn't know how bored y'all were right now.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then, so goals without structure are wishes. Goals with structures are scalable results. We've done this for the past 15 years or 17, but mainly 15 years. And I get the question a lot. How did you get so big? How did you do that? This is how I did it. Strategic, consistent goal setting and planning, no excuses, holding people accountable, being a positive leader, making it a great place to work, making people want to hit these goals. And that's the part I'm going to get into next, right? I just told y'all that everybody's selfish. And even me, if I lose 10 pounds, I want to eat ice cream at the end of it as a reward. That is a thing. So your managers need rewards. You know, they're working, they're hitting these goals. Like, it's important to celebrate that with them. And sometimes, like when we were in the very beginning and I was broke as hell and couldn't really afford anything but like a pat on the back, think outside the box. Maybe you have different ways to give rewards, like simple recognitions of team awards, of recognizing, taking in their picture, putting their poster on the wall. That doesn't cost you a penny. Maybe we leave early the next 3 Fridays. Everybody gets off at 2 because we smashed our goals and we are crushing it. Maybe you celebrate, you go out and have a big margarita celebration lunch, or however you want to do that. Fun things, like we started, every time our quarterly goals went really well, we would go to Topgolf and have a fun day, or go to an escape room or one of those rage rooms where you get to hit stuff with a bat. Just rewarding them, even extra PTOs if that's all you can think of at the moment. Renting a party boat. I mean, there's so many things that you can think to do. And then where we really, really started kicking some major booty is whenever we started doing annual goals. So we started tying, once we got used to these quarterly goals, then we would start creating our annual goals, which were mainly financial benchmarks. And anytime we made over that financial benchmark, guess what? They earn that money. The goal, the company made what they wanted to make. Anything beyond that is bonus for everybody, right? So why not take that bonus and either one, give bonuses back to your people that earned it, 2, or let's go freaking take a vacation. You would be amazed that some people don't want extra money. Sometimes if you were like, I'm going to pay you an extra 10 grand, they'd still be like, yeah, but I still have to be here every day and do the same crap. But if you were like, we're going to go on a trip if we hit these numbers and everybody works for it, and they get to go on a vacation, maybe their husband hates the beach and they never get to go to the beach, and maybe they want to go to the beach, just and to just have a time away and vacation. Sometimes people really look at that. So we have implemented company retreats into our annual, and I can tell you they are fun, and it really, and not only is it rewarding, but it also brings us together. That leadership, it brings us together as a team. So even if it's not something crazy, just maybe our Austin office started doing, like, for the cleaners, when they had a really good month, they started doing like mom's night, karaoke night out or whatever. And at the office, all singing karaoke. Just make sure you're rewarding. If you have all these goals and everybody's kicking butt to do it, and then there's no reward or pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, they'll stop trying. So I'm almost to the end. Evolving into an advanced goal setting group. In the beginning, you're going to probably be the one facilitating, setting these goals, creating the systems, defining the expectations, and tracking the results. You're kind of like the architect and the coach throughout the strategic process. And as you scale, and your other managers, they're going to be ones leading the goal setting sessions, breaking their own team goals down, tracking their report and progress, and managing others using the same structure. So we will have a big session together, but we actually are so big now that we kind of break up. Like, we break up into ops does their strategic planning session and sales does theirs, and corporate does theirs. And then we'll kind of come together for one big win that's kind of a sharing moment at the end. So that's kind of what it looks like towards upper. Be warned, even with your upper level leadership team, you as an owner cannot just walk away and go to Greece and never look back. You have to still be involved. You still need to check in on consistency. You still need to check in when you check on with your managers and still hold and reinforce the structure in place. The difference is you start as a builder and a doer of the process, and then you turn into a visionary and a coach. So great companies don't just manage teams, they build managers who build their own teams. I think one of the we were kind of in that middle structure of trying to promote another manager. And I said, look, I want you in this position, but you need to replace yourself before you can get to this next position. You're encouraging your other managers. Like, if you want to be DOO, then I need you to replace yourself as GM with these specific instructions. And I remember I did that to Roxy, and by God, in like 2 months, she had herself replaced and I didn't even know it. I was like, oh gosh, we have a new GM. So that's the kind of thought process that we have to move to and managing managers. You're coaching, you're guiding, you're building, and you're managing your teams. And if you can do that, then you can finally hit those growth potentials, because you need to be having them do the day-to-day stuff, because guess what I was doing at 2 and 3 million while they're managing the business and having their planning sessions. I'm racking my brain on how to make this grow. I'm creating more revenue, and that's all I'm focused on. I'm not focused on answering a phone or writing a made-up or attendance policy or anything like that. Now you can grow. Now you can catapult yourself into growing once you figure out how to lead and delegate to others. So start as a cleaner. I did, with a mop and a broom. You hire a manager, then you replace yourself. Then you become the visionary. Then you replace yourself again, and probably a couple more times. And then finally you install your CEO, and now you're an actual owner. Before that, you weren't. You worked for yourself and you were the owner. So the owner doesn't work in the business. You're more of like a shareholder, but you're still present. You're still there. You're still being the visionary. You're still being the coach, making sure that that leadership is there and that you're working it. So your mission: build the structure, coach your team, and develop your next CEO, and just keep replacing yourself and keep growing. Any questions? I'm going to pick on y'all. Oh, if your mute is on, I can't hear you. Come on, Todd. I know you won. You're going to get me.
No, I mean, that was really good. A lot of good information. The part I don't like is checklists. I'm not good with checklists. I ignore checklists. I might look at it once and then think I know everything I'm supposed to do and never look at it again. So that's the hard part for me, something I have to work on. But everything else, I mean, it's setting goals a little bit differently than most people think of goals, I think, because you're actually addressing something when you were talking about it. Like, it's not just I need employees, like breaking it down over 90 days. If I need 3, then I'm going to have to interview 74, or 74 are going to have to schedule an interview. 20 are going to have to show up, and actually looking at what's going to happen in order to meet the goal. Like, it's a lot more analyzed, like as far as the thought process of developing the goal itself. So just good information other than a checklist.
Okay, so Pam, you're on your checklist, main on yours is to make sure that Todd checked his checklist. And if he doesn't, he gets written up.
Love that.
It is not an option, and you're not making any excuses, sir, because
I'm not. I'm just honest. I don't do checklists. I don't know how to do. I can't remember to do a checklist.
I'm with you.
And I can set the reminder to get that done.
Todd, you
That's-
got 3 people that are against you. Actually 4 now, so
That's a small number of against Todd if you really look at things.
You're just the funnest. You're the most fun to pick on.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I won't pick on you today. Does anybody? I won't pick on anybody. So please openly ask a question. I will not pick on you.
I think that the information you gave was amazing because I feel like we're always putting out the day-to-day fires. And we've in the last year gotten away from the setting the goals. Like we set a big goal and we've hit them. But I think that it would make our day-to-day better if we had those, like we have systems and checklists for everything, but the consistency and me disciplining people for not being consistent can be hard sometimes. And even for my manager, for her too, because it's just like then we're putting out the next fire, and it's like then we forget, and staying consistent. Now we've had major growth. We continue to have major growth, but we could probably be a lot further if we had these meetings and had all of those things. I think I think we need more management, honestly.
I think y'all are pretty big. I think y'all do too. I think you could use one more admin in the office for sure.
Yeah, it's just finding the money because a lot of the girls, you know, they pay themselves basically because they're out working in the field. So it's like finding out that part of like, you would think being almost, I think our goal is to hit 800,000 this year. And you would think that that means we're making a lot of money, but that's not how it works because everything goes up with that. So we're just on a bigger scale. But yeah. So, but I think, go ahead.
I think that's your priority number one. Your first strategic training session is I can't do all these things. Why? Why? Because the profit's not there. Profit, number one goal. Fix it first. Then it'll be easy to get all the rest done. So that would be my first strategic goal that I did. And you can visit with me. I know we know each other. You can visit with me soon. I have some financial sheets that could totally help you. Or you can just use Dan with Best Dan Bookkeeping and he'll get you lined out. One of the
Cool. Well, we are using your SEO company that you suggest. So that's
Awesome.
going great.
Yay. SEO One Click, by the way. If y'all aren't using him, he's great. He's actually a partner in the cleaning software. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, very smart techie dude for sure.
Holly, and also mention Maids and More had the exact same problem as Amber. We were like, yay, our revenue, it increased by 30%, but then our variable cost was like sky high. So we were like, crap. It was the same exact net profit. So we had the same exact goal. That was 4 years ago even. We had a variable cost issue, a profit issue, which we figured out was a variable cost issue, and then broke that down into what that was. Was it, like cleaner payroll or supplies? And then we have like set goals that follow over each 90 days. And a lot of them have to do with variable costs. Like we figured out exact KPIs and metrics on what our supply cost needs to be, what our cleaner payroll needs to be percentage wise. And we actually measure that daily, not just monthly and weekly.
Oh, that's
per job even. Like every day I look at what is the payout on that job. And anytime any job paid out more than it should, there's got to be an answer. When we started doing that, because if you didn't solve it from your breakdown, break it down further. If that didn't solve it, break it down further. If that didn't solve it, break it down further. And she's not lying. We had the variable cost goal on our sheet for at least 16 quarters before we finally solved it.
No, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
I also like to meet like every quarter too. Like once a year, you just kind of lose motivation to stay on track. So I think it's really good to meet every quarter, just to kind of touch base, show people what they're doing right, what things can be like improved on to reach your like annual goal or something. But I think meeting once a year is
not
tough.
enough. Let's see. I have Anthony. He's trying to be sneaky in here. I haven't heard him say a word.
Oh.
Where is Anthony and where are you from?
Hi, I'm from Cleaning by Design.
Oh, yay. Okay.
I'm
you
just
learn
kind
it?
of like figuring out the things that you guys are like mentioning here. So,
I will send
but
you the presentation. We'll put it up on the Success Network for sure. Do we have
yeah,
Anthony in the Success Network? I think so.
I don't think so.
Well, you need to be in there.
Yeah.
And so
so
does Justine.
Yeah, as a TCS customer, we have a Success Network and we have trainings every Wednesday. We do a lot of things like this all the time just within our customers. Let's see. Amber, I've talked to Amber. Yes, Amber, you went. Tammy, do you have anything? I know you're there. She's probably shopping and multitasking if I was guessing. Oh, and then Kristen. Where are you at, Kristen? She's like, no, no service. Tammy says no service. All right. Is there any other general questions that you have, like as far as processes or procedures, anything you're struggling with that we maybe could guide you in the right direction or help you brainstorm some possibles? Sandra, did you have any? What was your best takeaway, Sandra? What did you like the most?
I guess mainly just breaking down like what's working, what's not working, and then setting the goals. But also, like, one person is not responsible for the whole goal. It's like a whole team effort. So you're not feeling like you're carrying that whole weight. And then you get overwhelmed and then you don't reach the goal and then it just never happens. Tammy's question was, I'm gonna ask it because I don't quite understand what she's trying to ask.
I
So
might can
we
say
seem
it.
to be.
I
Oh, there
might
she
can
is.
say it.
Okay.
If I
She's
fall
here.
off, then you can take it. So,
Okay.
so we're going through a storm right now. So say we want to implement this training Monday. What's the first 3 steps to break up this pattern to get things initiated and rolling?
Start with everybody come together and do not what's going good, not so good. And then I think even like implementing it in a smaller segments at first, just to get it going more until you get used to it. Maybe doing a monthly and get the what's good, not so good. Pick 3 off the not so good list, make 3 SMART goals, put it to the checklist, meet back in 30 days with them all accomplished, grab 3 more and go again. Because I know you were mentioning that you've got so many things you're trying to do at one time. You're not going to be able to do them all at one time. Prioritize them, knock 3 out at a time, and then start over with 3 more. Otherwise, you just want to hide your head under a pillow and run around in a circle.
Yeah, our problem is we do a lot of talk. And it's like, oh, great, everybody's pumped, let's do it. There's no hard deadline set. There's no accountability. There's no follow through. Only unless a fire pops up regarding that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you, the facilitator, have to be serious about holding people accountable. And I actually did forget to mention one thing. When you're assigning those tasks, don't give Todd a task that involves something that he's going to be bad at. Like usually when I assign tasks, so he wouldn't be in charge of checking checklists. Definitely not. So when you assign the task, you also need to think of the person you're assigning it to and their strengths. So if it's a very like bubbly leadership task, probably give it to your bubblier person. Or if it's more quiet, monotonous, detailed, like very specific, and somebody's really good at details, assign that task to them. I know at the cleaning software, we have 4 totally different personalities, and I can already tell you which one go, oh, that's a Carrie job. Oh, that's a Shelly job. Like we know exactly where those tasks go with your individual people. So make sure you give them something they're good at, because then they'll do it. If you just give Todd a checklist, he's not going to do it, even though we're going to make him. But maybe he's not in charge of the checklist.
Okay.
That was a good question, though. But I would start 30 days at a time, maybe even a week at a time, and one goal at a time.
Yeah.
But usually they take a little bit longer than a month or so. Or take at least a month. So Amber, on your 90-day process, changing your CRM should probably be right up there, and then get the ones that you got to get out of the way, and then eventually get to that change the CRM and you'll be ready.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, it's been an hour. I'll stay around if you want to. You are more than welcome to leave. I'm sure y'all have amazing things to do with your life. Me and Caitlin will stay in here if y'all have any extra questions. But I really appreciate y'all listening to me yap. And I hope that you got something out of this. It's the most requested question I get all the time, and it is a hard one to explain. And I hope that y'all learned.